been, I made a long time. It was like the clouds opened up and the skies parted because immediately saw and clicked with his strategy. The contrarian aspects. I mean, I'm very contrarian in a lot of things, and really the shorting aspect. I mean, I was like a lot of people. You heard about shorting on CNBC or whatever, and how the shorts are all these bastards and everything, but you never knew exactly how it worked. And that style really clicked with me. And for the last 3 years, I mean, actually, thanks to Michael Good Reaper, I've done a little better job tracking over the last year. But I mean, over the last 3 years, I have been extremely consistently profitable. I mean, 70-80% win rate. Nothing huge, and I don't trade that much, and that's kind of my niche, and that's why Tim asked me to be here, as to how to apply his strategy when you have a full-time job, have a life, and can't be a full-time trader, be strapped in all the time. Now, also, I do have the advantage of, I mean, I do own my own business, so it's like I'm not, Tim says, a cubicle junkie. I mean, I don't have a boss breathing down my neck. So yeah, I'm a part-timer, but I've got a little bit of an advantage of not having a boss either. So, but I also think that some of the stuff that I've learned is applicable to a lot of the guys, especially I think a lot of the people here are just getting started and you have a job or you've got other things going on and you're not a full-time trader. You're not strapped into a laptop 9 hours a day. So I guess that's the bio. And then what I wanted to do, first of all, again, being a part-timer and being very busy, my presentation was extremely late. So it's a little thin, but I like to keep things simple. That's another thing I like about Tim's strategy is it's very simple. If you, in my opinion, I've followed a lot of the guys that follow Tim and I follow a lot of traders. If anything, if you add complexity, it just screws the whole thing up. I think keep it simple, follow simple rules, and that is the way to be consistently profitable. You might not be a millionaire, you might not run a hedge fund, but I mean, I've made 50 grand a year trading before. This year, my trading volume's way down, just very busy with work, but I'm up 20 grand, and you can go to my website and see my trade log. I mean, I don't even know. I think I got like 30 trades, 40 trades. I mean, they're not that many. I try and shoot for a couple a week, but I think I've averaged about one a week this year. So onto some of my trading rules, and what I'd like is please keep this very Q&A friendly. One of the reasons my presentation was late is I just really struggled with what do the attendees want to hear? What's my message? So I put this together, but I'd really like to hear what your questions are, and maybe I can answer them, maybe I can't. But one of the things that I really think is important is really getting a battle-ready mindset in trading. What I've seen is so many people that lose a lot of money and blow up. I mean, they're not prepared. One of the great and one of the best and worst things of trading, I think, is the extremely low barriers of entry. I mean, if you can put together $100, you can be a stock trader. But that is where I see the biggest problems and blow-ups is guys that think, oh, I can trade some stocks today. And so I try and where I have gotten better is by applying a very disciplined approach. I used to religiously build a 12-stock watch list. I still do that. I just don't blog it anymore because I don't have time. But I really try to not trade a stock that's not on my watch list. I get up early, I screen, and when it comes to screening, trading rules, I mean, I could tell you the stuff, but I'm about as pure a Tim student as there is. I mean, there's nothing I do that you can't buy his DVDs and learn, or go to his site. I mean, the screens I run are the screens he runs. I mean, there's nothing. It's my spin is just how I applied it. Yeah. I mean, I'm doing. There's days that I try. One thing I've done is, and I think that Tim's watch list is a great learning tool. I used to wait for his and then do mine. I actually try and like beat him now, or even if I get it, I try and get mine done first. And there's most days. I mean, there's 8 out of 9 matches. Yeah, I mean and I think it's the advantage. I mean, again, just keep it simple because it works. So yeah, and there's days. Yep, there's days. Sometimes I have a few more. Like there's a lot of there's a lot of he really avoids the earnings plays. Sometimes I play those even though I know it's dumb and stuff. But um, if you guys don't do that, I recommend that. I mean, I did that for years. I mean, I still do it today. I mean, I plug his tickers in and I do my watch list. I plug his in and I see where they match up. I mean, he has 10 years of experience. That there's value there. So, um, so I think getting up early. I mean, I like it because there's nothing going on. You've got all the overnight news. I mean, a lot of guys will do their watch list the night before. I kind of disagree with that because especially with these crappy stocks, they're releasing stuff after the close or 8 o'clock at night and stuff like that. So I think there's an advantage to getting up early, doing your due diligence, and not just sitting down and saying I'm going to trade stocks today. Another thing that it's interesting the time frame of where I became a successful and consistent trader and where I decided to get back into shape. Having kids is a bitch, I tell you, for taking care of yourself. Okay, I mean, before I had kids, I was in good shape, and then 5 years later, I mean, I'm 200 pounds, I got high blood pressure, and I'm like, holy shit, what happened? So, it's interesting. About the same time I started trading Tim's strategy, I finally got back on the weights, finally started working out in the morning, and it's interesting how much that improved my trading by getting up, getting the blood pumping, getting in better shape, being prepared physically and mentally. I mean, trading is, I mean, I think a lot of people glaze over that in the books, but I mean, it's you think just sitting there at a laptop, I mean, it's a piece of cake. I mean, it's stressful. I mean, it's a load on your central nervous system. And so I really recommend, and I tell you, the days I trade bad are the days I don't get up early and the days I don't work out. I think there's great value in that. Not trying to sound all, like a trainer or something, but again, these are the things that work for me. Maybe they will work for you, maybe they won't. Kind of dovetails into that is I mean, trading is hard work. It's back to what I said before. I mean, so many people just think it's like, oh, I can just trade stocks. It's easy. Well, it's not easy, and don't ever approach it that way. When I have had big losses is when I thought this is easy. 2 years ago, I went on a run of like 12 profitable trades. All of a sudden, I'm trading FAS. I'm like, what the hell? And lost like $2,000 on it. It's like, whoa, just because I thought it was so easy. Oh, I can trade any instrument, and that's a constant battle. I mean, Nate picked on me. I mean, I traded wheat futures back this summer for some reason, but it was actually profitable. But so always, it's a job, man. It's a battle. It's not a game. So, and then only trade if you're ready. As a part-timer. I mean, full-timers, it may be a different process, but if I get up late and I don't build that watch list, or if didn't have time to see what futures are doing or to get a feel for the market, don't trade. I think that there is that, again, me personally, that's when I have losses, is when I'm not ready. And then you sit down and think, I can just do this. And it doesn't work, at least for me. Now, maybe others will have better results. But listen to Tim, especially process-wise. I tell you that his rules, his screeners, the process, the strategy works, plain and simple. It's funny that obviously nobody wins every time, but I mean, in my opinion, there's nobody that's right as often as he is. And it's extremely valuable that for 30 or 50 bucks a month, you can get that information. I, highly recommend that. Only trade what you know or what you have or what you're familiar with or what you have practiced. Back to that point, I mean, what do I know about shorting a triple leveraged financial ETF? Nothing. I've got no edge there. I know how to short penny stocks. And when I look at my trade log, 9 out of 10 wins are shorting overextended penny stocks. That's what works. Everybody, and I think everybody, I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're a hedge fund manager or who you are. There's this more. You always want to do more. It's like, and especially when there's not plays. That's one of the bad parts about Tim's strategies. Sometimes there just aren't trades. So you always want to do more and play other instruments. And, if you figure them out and you have an edge, fine. But until you get that edge or till you know how to do it, don't do it. I hate trading. And Tim has touched on this before. And I say I hate trading, but I've got to explain that is to be consistently successful, in my opinion, is you have to get in that mindset where I will only force myself to go into an ideal trade. And again, that has worked for me. I mean, I force myself to make that trade. Back to some of Tim's slides about going through those rules. I mean, I try and find every reason in the world not to trade. And to me, that's the way to approach it, because so many people want to find a reason to trade. And I think that is the exact opposite way to think. You can always find a reason. I just shorted Bourne because of a Citron report. It's dumb, but you can always find a reason to trade a stock. I think it's, find a reason not to trade. And then if you go through all those reasons and there's no more reasons left not to, that's when you're going to be successful, and that's when you'll profit. Take shit seriously. I mean, this ain't a fucking game. And that's where I see so many following chat rooms and following other traders. Everybody just thinks it's so easy. And it's like, oh yeah, got the day off from work, I'm going to trade some stocks. And see you later, buddy. I mean, I'll start the fucking stopwatch, See you in 6 months. And they all disappear. Those are the guys that you never hear from again. And not like I'm old school, but I mean, I've been in the penny stocking community for 3 years, and it's the guys that think it's so easy, and it's the guys with the biggest mouths that are gone. Never hear from them again. You get a modest guy like Mike Wagner, and he's been around since I have been. So, develop a plan. And this kind of goes back to some of the other stuff. Develop a plan, and develop and create what you want to trade, and stick to that. Again, where I have had losses is where I get outside of what I'm good at. Michael Jordan, greatest basketball player ever. He's the greatest athlete ever. Thought he could play baseball. Well, that didn't quite work out, And as a trader, it's the same idea. If you know how to buy penny stocks, then do it. Don't short them. I can't buy. I mean, I buy a stock and it never works. It's amazing. I should have a trade service based on my buys, because I can buy the top 99 out of 100 times. So, so I refuse to do that anymore, because I'm not good at it. And it's just, so do what you're good at. Find what you're good at. I mean, it may take you a while. That's the other thing is, I mean, it's hard work. You're not going to figure out, I mean, if you stumbled across Tim's conference a week ago and you come walk out of here, I mean, you don't know what you're good at yet. I mean, it's time consuming. Same type thing. I mean, this is kind of almost duplicate, but stick to your rules. I mean, do what you do well, and that dovetails back into that idea of not, of finding reasons not to trade. If it matches up with everything you do, and it doesn't work, so be it. Cut your loss early. That's always rule number one. I mean, I didn't put that up here because that's always rule number one. I don't care. You could throw my presentation away. If you cut losses early, your potential for being successful is immensely higher. But don't do all this random stuff, which might even be next. Oh, okay. And only as a part-timer, this is a real heavy part-time rule here, is only trade when you can devote that time. If you've got a meeting at 10 a.m., don't trade us. Don't enter something at 9:30 and think, oh, I'll get out at 10 to 10 and go to my meeting, or I'll set a stop, go back, and come back. I mean, if you do have a job, if you are a part-time trader and you're off on Fridays, then look for setups then, but don't trade and then go to work and stuff like that. I've seen guys, again, Tim followers, tried to do that and it just doesn't work. If you can't devote the time, don't do it. Paper trade, do something else. Change your schedule around, but don't, if you can't sit there and do it right, don't do it. And when you do find the time, I just said, if you have Fridays off, look to trade then. But, that's flawed because, especially in this strategy, the plays aren't always there. You just might not have a setup today. So don't say, I'm off today, I'm going to trade. That's bad. I've done it. I've done it many a time where it'd be slow. I knew I didn't have any appointments the next day, and it's like, oh, yeah, I'm going to make some trades. There's nothing there, but I'm like itching because I've got the time. Terrible. Failed. Especially as a part-timer, don't overtrade. I think that is something, and I've gone through that. Actually, one of my best runs was when I was trading a lot, but then it dried up and didn't. In long term, I don't think it works. Especially for me, if I start losing, the losses seem to beget losses. They start piling up, and you start trying harder. It's like trying to punch a hole in the wall. You just keep punching harder and harder and harder, and it doesn't get anywhere. So I really recommend, as a part-timer, one trade a day tops, 2, 3 a week. I know nobody wants to hear that. Everybody wants to be this hardcore day trader making 100 trades a day, but I don't think it works, especially in this niche where the plays only come on every so often, and especially if you're not full-time. Stick to the best plays. That goes back to that over-trading thing. Do not, don't just, if Tim says number one potential short, don't just trade it because he said it's the number one potential short. Who knows what it did from the time he put it on the watch list or the time you even screened it. You might look at it and it's CDTID and you're thinking, oh my God, this is the greatest short. But don't, only enter those trades and only execute those trades when it fits what you want to do. And when they're good plays. I've shorted plenty of stocks that are up, 10%, but you look at the chart and it's, oh, it's fading. It just, let those go because they will just set you back before the next supernova. Just let them go because you'll make it up or you'll just take away the potential gains from the good plays. And what I don't like about bad plays is it wastes mental energy. I hate getting trapped. And invariably, trades that I get trapped in are the bad ones. And when I say trapped, it's like they just go sideways or they go nowhere and they're just boring. And then you think about them all the time and it's a waste. Think of what else you could be doing with that mental energy. You could be learning something new. You could working at your job while you're trading on the side. Don't enter bad plays or boring plays. I don't know the right term if it's a defeatist attitude or I don't think that's probably the right term, but I personally, whether it was sports or business or stocks, I focus on the losers. I think a lot of trading books will tell you, think like a defensive back, forget the last play, live for the next play. I'm the opposite. I focus on the bad ones and how I will not do that again. I kind of take the good ones as that's what you're supposed to do. back to a football analogy, you don't have to dance in the end zone because you're supposed to score touchdowns. I mean, that's what you're supposed to do. Focus on the mistakes. That's what works for me. And I have found that by doing that and by writing in your journal, whether you do it publicly or in your private trading journal, it's interesting. There's always new mistakes to make, but I don't tend to make the same mistake when you dwell on it, So, especially in the age of Twitter and chat rooms and everything, I really recommend ignoring all the noise. Learn what you do well, learn your system, and then apply it. Don't go on stock twits, unless you're a momentum, sorry Nate, unless you're a momentum trader, don't go in chat rooms. I mean, if that's what you do well, go in chat rooms, look for the plays, hit the momentum. But if you're a swing trader or you're a multi-day short, just avoid all that stuff. It just gets you in trouble. Everybody's got an agenda, and this is penny stocks. I mean, 90% of people are fucking idiots, man. I like another thing that run into, especially as beginners and part-timers, is you're always looking for the next tool or the next trading platform or the next monitor setup. I mean, I've got a Mac Pro with 3 26-inch monitors. I don't even use it anymore. It seems so great, but it's like just simplify your setup. Learn what you know well. I mean, I use Thinkorswim charting because that's what I cut my teeth on. But whatever it is, just find something that you like and stick with it. Don't always be looking for the next tool because that doesn't help you trade any better, in my opinion. Again, if you're doing different things, it may work for you, but if you're looking to short overextended stocks, get something that you're familiar with, get a screener that you're familiar with, and learn it really well. Don't jump around all these platforms all the time. Shorting is hard. Tim will make this point, but I think that is the advantage. I mean, it's a pain in the ass to get up early and reserve shares. It's a pain in the ass to sit there and refresh IB hoping there's shares. It's a pain to do all these things, but, I mean, back to my bio, I mean, for my entire adult life, 12, 13, 14 years, I didn't make any money playing stocks until I followed Tim's strategy. So I think it works. It's a bitch. It's hard. But I also think that's an advantage because if you're willing to learn these things, I mean, you have an information advantage. I don't know about you guys. I mean, if you try and explain this to your family or a friend, people just glaze over. They got no idea. You might as well be talking alien. But I think that's an advantage. And that's why I think it'll work long term because nobody wants to learn all these dumb rules and put up with the hassles. People just want to buy a stock and see it double. Kramer, give me a pick. This is kind of, I almost covered this already. I mean, I really recommend building a list. I mean, like Martini said, create that list and do that due diligence every day or every day you think you're going to trade. Or every week. I mean, maybe if I do a daily time frame. I mean, I know several guys do weekly, but that in my mind, it's psychologically, there's a process there. I mean, you're preparing. It's back to sports analogy. I mean, that's practice. That's like going to practice during the day. It's game time, and if you don't practice, I don't think you'll perform. Log diligently and blog it publicly. I mean, that works. Flat out, it's easy to be like, it's screwed up, and I'll bury that one, man. It's a bitch publicizing it, and it makes you get better. But at a minimum, do your own log. I really think that is one of the things that helped me improve upon my application of Tim's strategy is once I kept faithfully putting them in a spreadsheet, seeing what worked, writing about them. I mean, if you don't feel like you write very eloquently, I mean, just put it in a Word document or put it in something so that you capture your thoughts. Because that's the only way you're going to grow, I think. I mean, you can't unless you're some kind of savant, I mean, you can't improve without thinking about it. And by writing it, you're thinking about it. My last point before questions or anything is it works. This strategy works, in my opinion, more consistently than any other strategy. It's a hassle. You can only trade every few days. It's a hassle. You see these ideal plays that you can't get shares to shorten. You got to open these new brokerage accounts every 6 months. But to me, those drawbacks are worth the advantages of being able to consistently make $20,000 to $70,000 a year part-time. And I enjoy it. I mean, I hope everybody here enjoys trading. And, again, it's not a hobby. I made that point. But, I mean, if you enjoy doing this, it works. So, I think that's it. Any questions? Thinkorswim and Interactive Brokers. I used to, a lot of, back when Thinkorswim had better borrows, I did probably 90% trading there. Then that started drying up, so I moved to Interactive Brokers. I still chart with Thinkorswim, but probably 90% of trades are with Interactive Brokers now. So I think I opened and it was funny because I think I even have an email proving this from Tim. I mean, I delayed opening a Sogo account because I knew the borrows would dry up as soon as I open it. And sure enough, I open it and fund it, and now it's worthless. But I really like Thinkorswim and for charting, and then Interactive Brokers for trading. So. I would say for probably about 6 months, 6 to 9 months after starting to follow Tim, because of that idea of always wanting to do better. I'm making $2,000-3,000 a trade, and it's like, oh, I can make 10, 20, and then you start trying all these tools and all these monitors and all this stuff, and I kind of went like, it's like Seth Godin wrote a book, The Dip, and it's like I kind of went like this, and then I went down, and then I'm like, wait, let's get rid of all this shit and go back to where we started, and then I've kind of steadily, evened out the mean since then. I try, and my time frame is usually about a day. It's funny, my losing trades are all multi-day trades. Because I'm waiting for it to come back or something. The winners are same day or 24 hours. The losers are 3, 4, 5 days usually. Sometimes they pan out. I mean, I had like a short in Arna that I just sat on and ended up panning out, but that was an anomaly. And then what was the other part? Sorry. I typically, I concentrate on $1 to $9. I try and avoid under $1. I try and avoid over 10. Typically 3,000 to 5,000 shares is what, I trade with, using Tim's full disclosure idea. I mean, I trade with a little over 100 grand. I mean, that's 20%, but usually I'm only in one position at a time. So, I'll go 3,000 to 4,000 shares on a $3 stock. So, whoop. I try and do the due diligence every morning because I'm a real creature of routine. I mean, I really like following a schedule in the morning. So I mean, every morning, a little over an hour, probably of screening, reading Watchlist, building my Watchlist. And then trading, it all varies depending on the plays. I think I had 1 or 2 trades in October. Some months I trade 3, 4 times a week. It all depends on if I see things that fit what I want to do. I try to be, yeah, yep. Again, that's back to my idea of having time. Now, what I'll also do is again, fortunately, I can, being the owner, I mean, I'll set like a text alert in Thinkorswim. It's pretty nice. I mean, they're pretty much, you get them in about 10 seconds. So I'll set that alert, and then I'll go back to doing what I'm doing, whether it's on the computer or dealing with staff. Then I hear that bong, and I jump back, but I try not to leave. I travel a lot with work. I mean, just between customer sites and stuff. If I enter a trade, I'll either, if I'm leaving, I won't enter a trade, or if I have to leave, I get out. I mean, I will walk away from the computer, but I won't like completely leave. So, yeah, what's it doing? Great. Fucker. I got a text alert. Yeah, funny guy. Anything else? Thought I saw a couple more hands, but see, I never used mine. I mean, I would ask some of the other guys, like maybe Michael Good. I mean, shorting Reaper, Sogo's no good now, or what? Oh, thanks for paying attention. I'd listen to you. Going to Penson, right? Oh, I'm sorry. The question was the opinion of Sogo. What was he asking? Okay. Okay. I don't. The dilemma is I can't really answer that question because I funded it and then I heard everybody just complaining. I haven't even. I'm in the process of closing it. I've never traded with Sogo. So now the bummer is, 3-4 months ago, it was, well, Tim made that point. He thanked them for like 100,000 profits, but I've never used it. So I need to plead ignorance. I like to look. Cut me some slack. I don't have these crazy memories like some of these guys do and remember every trade. I typically look for. I mean, that was a late day fade, I think, and I just start looking for. I like to see red, like a couple red 15-minute candles. I like to see a red hour candle, especially stealing Tim's strategy, that fading into the close. If I remember Hook, I shorted right before the close, and then it collapsed pretty early in the morning. But same thing Tim looks for: fading volume, fading price. And I think it like dropped. It just cracked 8, if I remember right, and that's what I look for. But same standard Tim afternoon fade. So go ahead, webinar. Smaller, or the question is, how do I approach stocks with wider spreads? If they've like AERL, I mean, if there's scary spreads like that, I just scale my position size down, and widen the stop loss. I mean, obviously, if it's a crazy stock with a 1 cent spread, maybe you have a 20-cent stop. But if it's got a 30-cent spread, I just go in smaller and open my spread up or open my stop up. So. Anything else? Oh, they're called Vibram 5 fingers. So, no, it simulates being barefoot. It's better for your back, better for your feet. So, and they're a conversation piece. Overextensions. I'm looking for. I tell you, one of the biggest trades I use or biggest scans that I love, and I'm sure you can still Google it, is the red candle floater on Mike the 13th. That site's still out there, right? The green on the screen one? Yep. And I think if you Google red candle floater, I don't always trade that, but I run that scan every day and have for 3 years, and it's a stock fetcher scan, and I'm just, again, that bread and butter Tim strategy of straight up and then starting to volume and price fading, and that red candle floater is good for finding that. I bet if I had to guess how many of my trades were directly related to a scan, I mean, that one's 70% probably because of that scan. So, and I just go through Stock Fetcher and just look for, you filter out the ones that are trading low volume and filter out the real companies and just, it's simple. I have the most bare bones implementation of Tim's strategy. I mean, it's just short faders. So, anything else? Okay. Does anybody want to? Do you want me to get out, like, get this to Tim and have you send this presentation? I don't know if there's anything really there, so we can. And then, what'd you guys think? Any comments? How'd I do? So, all right. Thanks.
Today's presentation